Welcome, everyone, and thanks for tuning in. You might notice I missed one video as we're heading towards holidays. Chaos hit hard, set aside the work itself, really got me swamped. But here we are. So, up for review today, rather special rendition from Century Wings, the Grumman A-6E Intruder. This one in the colors of the U.S. Navy, the VA-165, nicknamed the Boomers off of USS Constellation with this unusual paint scheme that they had back in 1990, which was frequently used in experimental applications. So, this paint scheme was a temporary livery applied on some intruders in the late 1989, specifically for the Red Flag military exercise that took place in the late 1989. However, the aircraft featured this temporary paint scheme only for the duration of the exercise, which was completely removed upon its return to base, which was in April 1990. So, before we detail the model, let's cover some of the history, shall we? The story of the A-6 Intruder in naval aviation was a somewhat significant, transformative, but initially rough start. It served as a legendary all-weather low-level strike aircraft in Vietnam, despite early teething problems with its complex systems and premature bomb drops. But ultimately, the aircraft did what other aircraft couldn't do. However, it wasn't a good start in terms of immediate perfection, but a testament to a naval aviation's push for, shall we say, leaping into advanced tech. So, over the course of the World War II and the Korean War, the use of aircraft saw a rapid increase in growth. As a result, the technology of those used by the United States military improved dramatically. The Grumman A-6 Intruder was designed to address some of the concerns raised by pilots who had flown during those conflicts. One of those concerns that pilots wanted to have the ability to conduct night strikes. That said, basically, pilots want to have that leverage to get up there and drop their bombs under the cover of darkness. The idea was for one aircraft or two aircraft formation to get to the enemy territory with maximum payload and deliver a devastating results. And more importantly, without having an escort package, and to get out of the target area very, very quickly, or in short set, to get the hell out of there. So, during the Korean War, the U.S. military pilots largely carried out missions aboard Douglas A-1 Sky Raiders. However, the Sky Raider had a significant limitations. Not to mention, Douglas A-1 fleet was simply aging and experiencing airframe fatigue, basically from the extensive combat use in Korea and Vietnam. One of the biggest drawbacks of the Douglas A-1 was its inability to perform in diverse weather conditions, and its targeting system made it incredibly difficult to carry out nighttime missions. So, needing a new airframe was inevitable. Further, naval aviation pursued technological advancements to develop aircraft with all-weather daytime and nighttime operational capabilities. So, operational necessity basically was crucial for the Navy, so they could have a bomber aircraft that could deliver ordnance deep into the enemy territory. And as I've mentioned earlier, this aircraft made traditional fighter escorts less feasible. So the Navy sought to overcome the existing limitations of the Douglas A-1. So the Navy wanted an aircraft to exceed the range and the payload capabilities of its predecessors, allowing for longer duration missions and heavier attacks. So Grumman design philosophy for the A-6 Intruder was to create a rugged, long-range, carrier-based attack aircraft To be precise, the aircraft carried a large radar system that could find and destroy small moving bogies, or targets, I should say, in any weather conditions, and more importantly, at nighttime and with poor visibility scenarios. We're talking almost in pitch black without having a visual reference. So, because the aircraft was built around a sophisticated integrated avionics system, basically allowing a two-person crew to operate side by side, cockpit design, the pilot and bombardier or navigator working together in the aircraft, this would allow them to perform the mission with exceptional accuracy even under zero visibility conditions. Also, the aircraft is equipped with an electronic display system that allow the crew to see the ground as well as targets regardless of conditions, which ultimately made this platform serve as the workhorse for the U.S. Navy and the Marine Corps. Hmm, looks like I'm getting ahead of myself here. Let me take a few steps back. So, following those shaped conversations and debrief with the pilots following Korean War, well, the Skyraider pilots' main concerns were surviving the intense ground fire. So, following those learned lessons from previous challenges, now the US Navy wanted a future aircraft to fly without any limitations and to replace the Skyraider. However, in 1957, a request for a proposal was sent out to the major aircraft manufacturers. Basically, they want an aircraft that can stay overhead, ready to hit anything at any time. Um, let's say acting as a flying artillery to provide immediate support to the ground troops. Further, the proposals were submitted to pioneering aircraft manufacturers Lockheed, Boeing, North American, Douglas, Grumman, and Vought Corporation. So, in January 1958, the Navy received 11 design proposals in response to a 1956 call for a strike aircraft capable of striking at targets in any weather at long range and low altitude. So, the winner of the proposal for a mid-wing subsonic aircraft by Grumman Aerospace Corporation, it was initially designated as a A-2F and later became the A-6 Intruder. Further, the Navy announced the winning bid by Grumman in terms of design process and advanced technology, and thus the aircraft entered fleet service in February 1963, and it became the world's first all-weather attack aircraft. The design team for Grumman was led by a few aerospace engineers, led by Lawrence Meade Jr., serving as a design chief, with significant input from other engineers like Robert Nafis. And Meade later became known for his work on the legendary F-14 Tomcat. Also, he played a crucial roles in the lunar module, but I digress. Moving on, um, the focus was on the functionality of the aircraft rather than the aesthetics. With the aircraft's simple design, some referred to A-6 intruders as the flying dumpstick or double ugly. Despite the criticism for its design, the design of the A-6 was considered a very cutting edge at the time. Well, the A-6 was a revolutionary capability, basically born from Korean War experiences. Despite being a fighter-sized aircraft, this aircraft featured a sophisticated avionics that used multiple computers, which provided an electronic display of targets and geographical features, even in low visibility conditions. One of the sophisticated features, the aircraft was equipped with something called the TRAM, or Target Recognition Attack Multi-Sensor Systems, combined forward-looking infrared radar or FLIR, and also the laser sensors with onboard computer basically located in the bowl turret beneath the nose of the aircraft. Also, its wings were designed to be efficient even when traveling above subsonic speeds and enabling the aircraft to maneuver easily when carrying a large payloads. Another interesting aspect of cutting edge design was the introduction of thrust vectoring system. You hear that right? Um, so the first 7 prototype and pre-production A-6 intruders were built with vectoring nozzles, incorporated tilting tailpipes that could vector the exhaust from its twin J52 engines downward by right around 23 degrees. This was intended to provide a short takeoff and landing or a stall capability. Well, the U.S. Marines was demanding this feature for specific operations so the aircraft could take off from extremely short airfields. We're talking less than 1,500 feet. However, during the initial flight testing, the Navy determined that this feature provided negligible performance benefits, basically adding more weight and more complexity to the airframe, and consequently adding more maintenance cost. Literally a marginal benefit for the Navy. So, after some back and forth arguing between the Marines and the Navy, this feature was completely removed, beginning with aircraft number 8 and so forth. Also, it bears consideration that this aircraft was also designed and compatible to. Basically, this aircraft was certified to carry a nuclear weapons if needed, such as try to remember here, folks. If my memory serve, the B-43 or B-61. So these nuclear weapons could be released via a semi-automated toss bombing system, or better knowing the LABS, basically means a low altitude bombing system, which would allow the A-6 to hit a target without flying directly over it, and thus avoiding the bomb's blast effects, which can cause some structural damage. And this automated toss bombing system was considered one of the best escape maneuver technique for the intruder. Well, the primary goal was to stay hidden from the radar screen. Basically, this system guided the pilot for the precise climb and dive and release the weapons. Moving on, the A-6 intruder first entered into service in February 1963. Owing to its ability to conduct operations at all time in any weather conditions, the aircraft were heavily used by the U.S. Navy and the U.S. Marine Corps. So the U.S. Navy acquired the Grumman A-6 first, receiving it in 1963, with the Marine Corps acquiring it shortly after 1964. And both military branches operated for decades as their primary all-weather carrier-based attack aircraft until its retirement in the mid-1990s. Also, this aircraft was involved in a number of missions against enemy targets, of course, during the Vietnam War. The A-6 was particularly effective due to its long range and heavy payload capabilities. However, flying to release its payload, making it highly vulnerable to anti-aircraft weaponry. So, over the course of the war, unfortunately, 10 intruders were shot down by surface-to-air missiles, and according to the research, 56 more were downed by the conventional ground fire and anti-aircraft weapon systems. And the A-6 Intruder was later used during a multinational peacekeeping mission in Lebanon in the early 1980s after a terrorist bombing occurred in the West Berlin in 1986. Um, the A-6 were used to drop bombs over Libya in retaliation for the attack. Also, it's worth noting that the aircraft were heavily used during the Operation Desert Storm, basically The A-6 logged more than 4,700 combat sorties, I should say, um, attacking Iraqi naval units, hitting strategic targets, and destroying enemy air defenses. Um, Once the Gulf War came to end, the aircraft was used to enforce a no-fly zone in Iraq, after which they provided air support during the 1993. Also, the aircraft participated in the Operation Restore Hope in Somalia. So, after 30 plus years of service, the last A-6 Intruder were officially retired in February 1997, although the Marine Corps had discontinued their use uh, of the A-6E 4 years prior. They were first replaced by the mighty F-14D Tomcat, after which that was swapped out for the FA-18 slash F Super Hornet in the Navy. Well, perhaps we can discuss this topic in a different video, folks. It's really tough to fit everything into just one video, even though I'm trying my best to condense the time here. But these videos just keep getting longer and longer because of the comprehensive history of each aircraft, which makes the nature of those videos inherently lengthier than planned. Excuse me, folks, I had to take a little swag here. So, anyways, the last A-6 retired from frontline service in 1997. One of the intruders on display with the bureau number 155611, or excuse me, 155610, is painted in the markings of the VA-196, the squadron which has spent 10 years of operational service, including deployments in enterprise. The aircraft also served in VA-128, VA-95, and VA-145 during its operational career. When the A-6's retirement was announced, a number of intruders arrived at the coast of Florida, which was back in 1994, while the ones that had been refurbished were put on display in various museums. Folks, I like this aircraft. I suspect that the design of this aircraft may not be appealing to some of you. Some folks like me here might be aesthetically indifferent, but to me, appearance is always secondary. But what matters is the excellent service and accomplishments. Here's the thing, folks. I'm a total history nerd, so I judge the aircraft by their legacy and story, not just by the way they looks. Right? Evidently, excuse me. This aircraft has an impressive track record over its operational history, and this aircraft was a true mainstay of naval aviation in its day, and it absolutely deserves some appreciation. I will say it deserves some recognition from true aviation collectors. Now, um, with the aircraft history in mind, let's get to the model details. Hmm? This specific model number is 001648. It is from Century Wings. As many of you know, Century Wings are widely recognized for producing excellent die-cast models. Now, I will say the only significant drawback of the Century Wings brand is their infrequent releases schedule. With that said, this means there are a very limited numbers of models available, which consequently drives up their value and prices considerably over a period of time. Um, Surprisingly, Hobbymaster does not produce any A-6. I don't know why. So Century Wings, the only manufacturer that does. And if you want to add the A-6 Intruder to your collection, it's got to be from Century Wings. Unfortunately, that's the only option you have. Nonetheless, I remain optimistic that Hobbymaster will reconsider adding this tooling to their lineup in the future. We shall see. Time will tell. Um, the reason I'm saying this is because if Hobbymaster produces the A6, obviously it will give us more variety of options to choose from, right? And more frequent releases, unlike Century Wings, where we have to wait multiple years, multiple delays just to get one release from them. Well, we'll see what happens with Hobby Master. Again, I'll give it a good hunch though. Also, that way we don't have to hunt for the Century Wings releases on the secondary market where prices are extremely high. And honestly, it looks like Century Wings, they use the same mold of Hobby Master. The only noticeable differences is the packaging, and that's all. That's just from my estimations. I've heard some speculations that the Century Wings molds were actually made at the same Hobby Master factory, made by the same people, literally. Has anyone else heard about this? And if so, let me know in the comments section. In any event, um, it is a very well done model. Surprisingly, this release is still readily available and affordable. This jungle green camo is pretty darn cool. I like it. So, in terms of weapons payload, it's fairly comprehensive with this release. You'll get a 12 Mark 82 in total. Basically, they're free fall or gravity bombs, I should say. So 6 bombs under each pylon. Also, you'll get 2 AGM-88 high-speed anti-radiation missiles or HARM, and you'll get 2 Centerlines fuel tanks. So the good news is they include an extra centerline drop tank, so you can display the model in the flight configuration with the fuel tanks installed. So good on them to do that. The package include a 2 pieces of clear plastic stand um, for those who want to show off the model in the flying pose. If you like that, that's an option. As for me, I'll stick to the wheels down configuration since I am not a big fan of those stands anyways, especially for my videos. Century Wings also offers a limited edition collectible card. Basically, it displays the total number built and which number your specific model is. It comes in the black glossy box. So overall, the packaging is pretty elegant in terms of markings insignia on the model. Looks fantastic. I've got to say, I'm very impressed about the details on the weapons. The canopy on this model is fixed. It is not removable, so if you want to open it, simply just slide it backwards and voila. A fairly simple process. I think it's very convenient design. Incidentally, there are tons of details in the cockpit, such as the display screens, the MFDs, etc. I mean, the details are right on point. Also, the rear horizontal stabilizers, they slightly pivot. Um, the light beacons or the formation collision lights across the fuselage are dialed in. It comes with the 2 pilot figures, pilot and the navigator. Incidentally, they're very similar to Hobby Master ones. So yeah, great model overall. Now, one minor critique is about the air intakes shape. So the air intakes of the A6 Intruder are generally described as a what's a phrase, semicircular or D-shaped, so to speak. That being said, it should have been more oval shaped instead of being narrow. So the air intakes on this model are a bit narrow, so they are not quite dialed the way I'd liked. But I think it's not a major issue. It's not a necessarily a deal breaker. I would say this is something so minor, but it's worth noting. However, the good thing is that the Century Wings has included a detail of the engine's compressor face, which making it visible through the intakes, which is good. Also, I'm glad that Century Wings they capture the arrestor hook or the tail hook, I should say, and I believe it's fixed. Also, the small static antenna on the vertical stabilizer or tail fin is somewhat fragile and can snap off easily, so please be mindful about that. So all accessories were fully compatible, basically fits perfectly across the board. There is no visible gaps. The landing gear on this model actually rolls, which is funny to me. I don't understand why some collectors care about this feature. Well, unless they plan to use it as a toy. um, and I personally don't value this feature because I find it more suitable for toys than a display piece, right? But it's an option. It's there. Anyways, it's a beautiful model, and if you guys are interested, this model is currently available, but it might not be later. So if you like it, I would say the longer you wait, the more you'll end up paying. That said, prompt action is advised to avoid a higher cost, and I firmly believe this model deserves a place on any collector's shelf. While some may not appreciate this aircraft design aesthetics, folks, looks aren't everything. What we should focus on is the aircraft lasting legacy and the history behind it. So, all things considered here, now is it worthwhile addition to your collection? The answer is absolutely. It's beautiful, it's big, true, it's an old school aircraft that doesn't get a lot of press play, but I believe it brings value to the table. And that concludes today's review of the A6 Intruder. So, with that, we're wrapping up 2025 on the channel and hoping 2026 brings good tidings and your goals for the upcoming year. And hoping that I can be able to maintain those videos. Hopefully, more reviews to come in 2026. And this is obviously determined by your support. Anywho, I'm so grateful for everyone's support. Folks, this will likely be my final video of 2025, as upcoming events and family commitments will take priority, right? I'm taking a short break over the holidays to focus on the family and other projects that I have. Um, with that said, my family obligations are my biggest rocks for the next little while. You know how it goes with this peak season, especially with the family, kids, etc. The family dynamic is truly something else, isn't it? And they want my full attention. So I'll be stepping away for a little while. Now, isn't a goodbye video, so don't freak out. However, there is one important note I'd like to make here before we wrap things up. As many of you are well aware, there is a more than enough BS mythology being slung around on YouTube. As it is, I am certainly in no mood to add to the growing pile of manure words that's circling around. Speaking from the AI generated videos, I'm so over all the fake synthetic videos on YouTube. Well, I've noticed that these videos they get more likes, more views. Now, I'm not bringing this up to promote my own work here, not to solicit likes or views, but rather to point out a growing concern here: the rise of AI made videos that grab public attention with these exciting visuals, but at the same time spreading a lot of misinformation to the public. And I think that's major. Seeing some insane videos like the F-35 doing donuts in a street in the middle of the city, and seeing some insane footage of the F-16 parked in someone's backyard. Holy bucket! What a crazy world, right? Now, with that said, since YouTube is flooded with those AI videos, it's genuinely hard to find small channels these days that really dig into aircraft history and the legacy of veterans who fought for our freedom, right? So, once again, I genuinely appreciate everyone who watches and interacts with my videos. I've met some really cool people since starting this channel. I also want to give a huge thank you to all of the people that support me behind the scenes. Anyway, hoping you guys learned a few things from this video. And if you don't mind, please like the video, and please consider subscribing. That way you'll never miss a new video, so you can catch all future videos that I upload, right? And also makes it possible for me to keep creating more content. Basically helps me to dedicate more time so I can provide more videos that you all enjoy, right? I'm planning to release some very cool videos in the future as time allows. Some folks might look at these videos as effortless when they came out, but trust me, a lot of homework and effort goes into creating just one video. So with that, wishing you all a joyful holiday season to all of my subscribers, no matter where you are or what part of the world you're in and how your culture does it. Happy New Year's and safe travels. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next review.